Are you interested in understanding GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, or Mounjaro? Then join us on The Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, the groundbreaking podcast helping people change their lives one episode at a time. The Plus Sides podcast is a disruptor. We're breaking down barriers, smashing stereotypes, and sharing inspiring stories that'll leave you feeling informed and empowered. Join us every week to learn from doctors who are specialists around GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, or Mounjaro. They'll provide you with science and facts to validate these incredible stories. But that's not all. We'll also bring you the voices of the GLP-1 Mounjaro TikTok community, real people who face the challenges of obesity-related diseases and disorders and discovered the incredible plus sides of GLP-1 medications. Our episodes are filled with heartwarming stories, laughter, and moments of triumph. You'll connect with our amazing community members who are reclaiming their health and experiencing their fullest lives. Are you ready to embark on a journey of discovery and empowerment? Tune in to The Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, and together we'll change the narrative around obesity and end the stigma. Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform and join our incredible community. Let's celebrate the plus sides of life together, because every story deserves to be heard. Every life deserves to shine, and everyone deserves access to expert knowledge and medication. The Plus Sides Podcast. You're not alone. It's not your fault. Hi, everybody. We're live.
Hi, everybody.
Special live episode. We're doing a couple of these lately.
Yeah, and you guys look at Pam's
forever.
Here, Caitlin's here. Hi.
Everybody's here. Let's say hey. Round the bend. Amy's here.
Oh, look, GLP-1's here. I'm just kidding. GLP-1 Studios here. Ha ha ha. Hey, Amanda. Amanda Cyril.
Australia. I love it. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Plus Sides Podcast. Forgot I got to do it for the audio because it's going to go on the audio. Huzzah.
Hey. Hi, Mimi.
Yeah. Everybody who's here, please do us a favor and like the live. Also, I need to set up. Oh, I just realized I forgot to set up the Insta. All right, here. Kat, you start the intros. I'm going to get the Insta set up. Go for it.
Oh, well, yeah, we're gonna do all that. Yep.
Yeah,
so
I'm doing that now. Tell people who we are, what we're doing, why we're here.
Oh, we're with the Plus Sides Podcast. Yeah, we're obesity advocacy.
Oh, yeah,
we do all the things. We're here for. Oh, we're going to do a recap of Obesity Week.
Yeah, we are.
All the things, and we're gonna bring on all of our friends.
That's right. And tell us more, Kat.
You're funny. Okay, yeah, she's trying to pull everything up. So listen.
keep going, Kat.
So listen, if you haven't followed us all everywhere on all the socials, YouTubes, the TikToks, the Instagrams, the Facebook, we actually have a Facebook group too. We don't hang out there a lot, but that's what we do.
I think I have
trying. We're trying to do everything. We're trying to do every single thing, and that's just the best that we can do. Right?
Listen, we're trying, guys.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh hey, Amy. Hey.
Hi, Carly. Welcome in, girl. Hey. Amanda, hey! Oh my God, everybody's here. Amy, other Amy. Hi, guys.
That's right.
Okay, sorry. I was getting
all the friends here.
IG, hold on. All right, we're gonna go live.
So we all get together and we chat about how the GLP-1s have saved, transitioned, changed all of our lives.
Yes,
and then made awesome friends in it along the way, right?
Yeah, we have. We've made great friends. Lots of people who are advocates and want to change things with us, and we all have different gifts and different focuses and different perspectives, which is what
definitely
makes us
different. Yep,
mighty and powerful. And what we found out today makes us in the top 1% of all podcasts in the world.
Yeah. So
Notes, which is the third party thing. So it's a big deal. Huzzah, huzzah, getting loud.
Somebody play the where's your husband with his sound effects?
Oh, my husband is taking a bath. Because but listen, here's the thing. Kat and I, we can only be so many places, and we have amazing advocates in this community on Instagram, on YouTube, on where else are we? TikTok, and then all the audio places are everywhere.
My applause.
It sounded like you were dropping tax. I was like,
wow, well, it's supposed to be well, listen, John decided to take a bath this evening and not
look at you. Yeah. But we can't do it all by ourselves. So the good news is we have amazing people who help us. And we all do it together.
What? This is all because thank you very much for giving us 5 stars.
That's right. Also, go review right now, would you?
yes, review the podcast, give us 5 stars.
Yes.
Okay.
And if you're watching, thumbs up.
Will you please give us 5 stars? And that's not that first sentence was a little bit too demanding.
I feel demanding tonight. Do it. Do it now. It helps us and it helps other people. Here's the thing, and we're going to talk about it tonight.
This is why your husband has those sound effects that could do
Sound
it.
effects.
Anyway.
We can do it. We do need that. Yeah. But like ultimately, a lot of people are about to get access, and we're going to talk about what that is and why that's great news, but also why that's kind of scary. And how are we going to figure out ways to come together and help during that time? Because there's a lot of stuff going on, guys. This is just the beginning, honestly. Okay. So let's invite in our guests, and we're going to talk about what we heard, saw at Obesity Week. We're going to talk about the documentary that we're all being featured in about this, how we recorded that there, and we're going to talk about all this stuff together. And then we'll talk also about the announcement with Trump and Trump RX, as well as Medicare and Medicaid and prices, and what we're going to have some speculating with Kim, and we're going to speculate with everybody what we think might happen, because that's just fun, Hashtag speculating with Kim. Okay. I like it. I agree with the whole platform speculating, guys.
Yeah. So okay. Do we need bean footage and all that good stuff?
We don't. John's gonna put in bean footage later.
Thanks. See, John can do that.
Welcome, Amanda of GLP-1 Studio Podcast. Welcome, Mike on a mission of everywhere in the land. Welcome, Zach's last name I can't pronounce.
What did you call Zach?
I can't pronounce his last name.
So Niemiec, like anemia.
Anemic.
So whenever someone tells me they're anemic, I say, "Oh, welcome to the family."
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Let's put the comments over because they were on Mike's face. I take the comments off. That is so funny, Niemiec. Now I won't forget. Zach Niemiec.
So Kim gets me all like Kim thinks it's hilarious sometimes when I make word association, but it works.
It reminds me of that movie where what was it, Bunny, the Bunny House Bunny, where she's like, God, Kim, like whatever you can do to remember it. Anyway, hey, let's get to it. I'm on a Vyvanse. So here's the thing. Of y'all here, not the meat of the thing. So I'm not, y'all, for once, I'm going to shut the hell up and everybody else is going to talk. This ought to be good, right? Okay. So let's just start with, I want everybody to do intros in case the listening audience doesn't know who you guys are, because a lot of our listening audience are not on social. Like they're just podcast people, So let's start with Zach, since you're new to the plus sides.
Zach,
tell us about you.
Hi,
and you're looking very ghostly.
No. Hey, everyone. Well, first, Kat and Kim, thank you for having me on. It's a joy to be here. But I am a lifelong obesity patient, but I've somehow managed to, for the last 8 years, make my chronic condition part of my everyday work career as well. So I've been in the bariatric field in particular for the last 8 years. And I've had bariatric surgery myself, and now I'm a GLP-1 patient. I won't bore you with all the details of my journey right now, but it's been far from easy, but I'm currently now in maintenance, and my obesity is currently well treated with the help of a GLP-1. And I'm just about like 2.5 weeks away from celebrating my 2nd year on a GLP-1.
That is amazing. 2 years. I got to tell you, I was on that bariatric podcast a while back ago, and I was like, well, I don't have my lap band anymore. Am I still a bariatric person? And they were like, oh yeah, like once you're there, you're always.
Once you've been sliced open, is that?
Once you've been sliced.
I call myself a former bariatric patient, but I still disclose it.
Amy, you must have been watching that day. If you knew that I was British, you must have been watching that day when I lost my shit on TikTok. Which time? See, there I go.
Yeah, really, which time?
Yeah, really. But especially lately with the censorship, it's been insane. Anyway, digress. Well, we're so glad to have you here, Zach. Yay. You know all the things and you go to all the stuff. So we're cool. Now, let's go to Mike on a mission. Hey, how you doing? What you doing?
Hey, everybody. My name's Mike Donnelly Boylan. I call myself Mike on a mission on TikTok. I'm a type 2 diabetic on Mounjaro. Let's see. I also published the Mission Report over on Substack. That's my weekly newsletter. And I see my mission these days, not just as losing weight, but advocating for GLP-1 advocacy, GLP-1 access. So
I love it. I love when Mike and I were in the booth, the Zepbound booth, quick thing. We were talking with them, and she was talking about, oh, look at this, like the discount pricing, all thing. And Mike goes, here's the thing, I'm not going to be happy. And he said as nice as he could.
I like that, Mike.
Spent $20 at the pharmacy. He was as sweet as he could be, but he was dead ass serious. It was the best. And I was like, me too. What he said.
I mean, the poor
like, if you could spend that much money on that whole thing that they did, because I'm working on a TikTok for it. If you could have spent, listen, I wouldn't be happy with that $25 ticket either. So
that's what I said to them. Like, you spend so much money on ads, but you could spend so much money reducing stigma. And if you reduce stigma, guess what? It opens up new markets to you. Now, I know I'm preaching to like a salesperson and not the higher ups, but maybe someone hears us, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree.
I think, listen, you never know where this gets. I remember I watched this thing one time where this guy, he's like famous now. I don't know who he is, but he is. And he was talking about how like he had like 10 views and one of them was Oprah. And I was like, please let that happen one day. Like, dear God, a heart attack. But still, you never know. Like, you just never know who's going to hear and whose lives you're touching, you know? So I think it's awesome. Let's talk about it. That's why we talk about all of it. We let it all hang out, you know?
I have a funny story about that later.
Okay, we'll come back. We'll circle back. Let's do our Amanda intro. And then I think we should come back and maybe the first thing we could talk about, Mike, just because the flow, maestro, is the immersion. Because I think everybody had different perspectives on the immersion. It might be an interesting topic. Amanda, who are you? Why are you here? What you doing?
Hey, I'm Amanda Pinello with the GLP-1 Studio podcast. I'm the host of the GLP-1 Studio podcast. I have a newsletter on Substack for the GLP-1 Studio. I'm the founder of the GLP-1 Collective nonprofit, and I am all things advocacy for access, baby.
Yeah, baby.
Yep, baby.
Yeah, baby. I love it.
Yeah, baby.
We're so glad to have you. Yay, yay. All right. So now that we have our lovely roundtable panel and our friends here, I'll be able to hear Kim scream all the way in Australia.
Yeah, you will hear her scream.
Listen, I make videos to Oprah. I send emails to Oprah. Maybe I should do a letter. I don't know. The way things are going. Who knows? One day, guys. It's on my bucket list.
You know what?
Plus.
I have an idea. I'm gonna table it. I'm just thinking of
Okay, table squirrel. Okay, all right.
The worthy author. So
let's talk about one of the things we saw at Obesity Week, because obviously it was like 6 days, and I think let's level set. So in terms of Obesity Week, from what I understand, usually it's the leading scientists, the leading doctors, all talking and like listening, right, about of all the latest meds and all the latest research and science, kind of just geeking out and nerding out together. This year, which a lot of us suspected would be the case, there was more patient stuff. And so Kat and I can only get a day off work because we've been to all the things this year. But luckily, our friends here, fellow advocates, were able to stay the whole time. But I think that we thought that it would evolve this year. And I was pleased that from what I heard, like from last year when people went, that it seems like it has. I don't think it's there yet, but I do feel like it has. And I did feel like, for me, people were very open to, people were coming up to me and going, can I come on your show and talk to your people about this, this, and this? And I was like, yeah, that's great. Let's do that, And it was wonderful to have like scientists and researchers and doctors just be like, hey, also we need like patients to speak sometimes. Like, are you into that? And I was like, yeah, that sounds great, And so just like those connections was really wonderful because we want to spread the GLP-1 gospel, you know what I mean? And so that's how I thought, like, that was my perspective, is it seems like it's shift from what we had heard. What do you guys think? How about you, Mike? What do you think?
So it's interesting. I was going to say the story about you never know who's going to be in your lives, right?
Yeah.
As to that, I was on live in TikTok, and there was this dad outside Toronto at his daughter's hockey game. And he's just sitting there listening, and he starts to tell me a little bit more about who he is, a little bit more about who he is. And it turned out it was the lead policy advocate for Obesity Canada, who just happened to be popping into one of my lives and was really moved by the conversation we were having. And he found out I was going. And he was the first person to say, the United States doesn't have enough patients in the room. If you go to Europe, if you go to Canada, it's like 20% of the population or something like that.
Wow.
Like, it's actually an active community between the patients and the physicians and the researchers. And so he really heavily encouraged me. Yes, Ian Patton. He encouraged me deeply to like go to the mic, to be there, and to not sort of shy away from the fact that I was a patient or that I have a TikTok platform. And so it was interesting. And what he and others were saying to me is that the Obesity Society and the Obesity Week are getting there. They're looking to like move there. They don't quite know how to get there. So I think we were very welcome.
Yeah.
I didn't have a single person recoil, I would say, except at the booths for Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk at times.
At times.
Got to be careful. Yeah, I
Had
got
that
the sense of
experience?
being careful.
You did too. What do you think, Amanda?
I think that the booth for Wegovy was extremely cold.
Yes.
I don't think I'm the only person that had that experience.
For the record, friends, I
yeah.
loved Wegovy. I just want to say, like, I feel like it gets a bad rap, but it was a freaking amazing medicine and it changed my life. I mean, I was on Ozempic, but still, like, you know, it really was. So I feel like it gets a bad rap. Just like,
It's the only space in the entirety of Obesity Week where I felt like I was didn't belong, and I was made to feel that way.
same.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
Not the only person who felt that. That's awesome. I mean, that's terrible, but I'm glad that I'm not alone.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you how it went with me is I was a little, it was a bad vibe. And I walked in and I said to the, he was like, hey, like, and he goes, you know, where are you here? And I wasn't really prepared for what I was going to say. And I was like, well, I know a lot about this, but, you know, do you want to tell me what you're doing now? And he was like, yeah. And so this nice guy took me over and started showing me how they have this app and how they're comparing like app data, real world data to the data from within the studies and people being able to sustain their weight loss at like 20%, like using this app. And then he goes, but honestly, he goes, we don't really know if they're using the app to keep the weight off or if they're just using it for the coupon. And I went,
what's wrong with either one?
that's some tea, like, you know? And so I was like, okay. And I was like, well, I'll tell you what. I was like, when I was on this medicine before, and I'm on the other one, I was like, I will tell you that I actually had a wonderful experience on it, and it can help my anxiety so much. And I would like to know if you're testing this and other things, like where else are you guys looking? Are you looking on the mental health route? And he looked at me like this, and he goes, just like that, like, and it got quiet for a couple seconds. And he goes, come with me. So he comes with me and I'm thinking, oh, this is gonna be cool. You know, no, he took me to the guys that look like they're a T-Mobile store on the other side of the booth. And I was like, because Zach told me, and I was like, okay, so we go over there and I go, well, Art, and I repeat, my guy leaves, he deuces, guy leaves and the T-Mobile people are helping me, you know, / Wegovy. And he goes, and I asked him about this and he goes, no, like, that's not what it's in the study. It's just these that are in the study. Like, and it was just like cardio, you know, stuff like that. And it was like 4s and which phases they were in. It was like he didn't know or he couldn't tell me. Honestly, I really feel like he didn't know at all. And I was like, but aren't you studying it for addiction? I feel like I've been hearing that for a long time. And he's like, no, I don't think so. It's not in this thing right here, this thing right here. And I was just like, all right, I'm going to go now. And then I left. But I didn't have that experience at the Zepbound booth at all. Right. But like, Mike, you said that like when you were there before, you felt they were a little tight-lipped.
Tight-lipped and uninformed. I was actually about 4 hours after we'll get to the president's announcement.
Yeah.
And I mentioned the president's announcement, and the person dealing with me had no idea what we were talking about. Like,
oh my God.
the biggest earthquake in GLP-1 access in forever, and they literally didn't know it at the Novo booth.
Yeah.
Lily knew it. Novo.
Yeah. Hey, Dr. Robin, welcome to the Plus Sides. We're so glad to have you. Yes, we're big mental health people talkers. Yeah, lot here.
Mental health people talkers. I like that.
That's what we do. Mental health people talkers. We
big
talk a
mental
lot
health
about
people
that.
talkers.
Yes. Yeah, that is so interesting. Because like I feel like when you and I went, the girl that we spoke with was very like receptive and open, and but she was also really open about their limitations and like they couldn't even like comment on posts of ours or anything like that, you know. And I was like, that's interesting. I wonder, did you guys notice when you went in the booth that like a lot of when you like immediately they would say to you, we're not talking about Ozempic, we're only talking about Wegovy because this is Obesity Week. Like I got that at both booths. Did you?
I got that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what were you guys getting at like when you went to like the Maritide booth and the AstraZeneca?
I was just gonna say Amgen I felt was the warmest pharmaceutical company.
I agree.
Yeah.
It was like open arms. The rep came over to us and said, like, basically asked us what level we wanted to hear about Maritide in. Like, she was like,
Nice.
listing off a couple. She's like, what kind of practitioner are you? Oh, you're not a practitioner? What about this? And then Mike was just like, we're patients. And she's like, got it. Patients, high level. Then she starts going through it, like the basics. Then she offered to even send us the clinical research data, which she emailed it to me right there on the spot.
Get it. That's some product marketing right there. That's some good stuff.
Not to mention the cool coffee that our faces got printed on, but that was just
that was cool. The cool coffee.
That's
I
awesome.
had a really good experience with AstraZeneca.
You did?
I went over and I spoke with one of the people who was a doctor turned, I don't know, researcher for them, but he showed me like what they have coming down the pipeline, which was super interesting. And then we talked about every single one of these things that was coming up. And then he gave me his LinkedIn. So I looked him up and he was like, gonna maybe come on the GLP-1 Studio podcast. So that's cool.
I love
there we
that.
go.
Fantastic.
Loved AstraZeneca. They were very nice. They
were
were
very
not cold at all.
Listen,
Not at all.
if the ones who were, if the ones who were waiting to come into this market would recognize that partnering with patients is essential, I think that it would be amazing, because with the explosion that I feel like is about to happen with this, there's going to be a lot of people. And the thing is they look to us. Like when one of the things that Kat and I went to where they were talking about PAs, there was a gentleman up there talking about the health system. And he was specifically talking about how they want to have something like what Kaiser has for type 2 diabetes, but for obesity. And so he was like, we want to have like the same kind of program because there aren't enough doctors, there aren't enough specialists to be able to take care of people and have this sort of full range of care that they deserve. And I thought that was a great point. And he was talking specifically about partnering with communities. And so I went up and I was like, I'm a community, like I'm an online community, but we're here and we're very big, and partner with us. I was like, because ultimately here's the problem. Like you need to find a way to incorporate the patient trust piece because it's very broken. You prescribe to your patients and they come and ask me how to handle their side effects. And that's not maybe not be because you don't know, but it's because the space doesn't exist. And so there's got to be something to help us kind of like heal and get through that. And he was very receptive. And I was like, would you like to come on the show? And he was like, yes. And so I thought that was really good. And then Kat lost the card.
No, I didn't. It's down. I'm gonna go downstairs and get it.
Okay.
No. It was the debate, but I got it. I got their LinkedIn.
Yeah, the debate was good too. Kat, that's one Kat and I went to as well. The debate was, is there such thing as basically healthy fat, right? Is there such thing as a person with obesity that is healthy, right? And I think what we sort of came away from was that they kind of agreed with each other that yes, but it sort of has a time clock, right? Like
and they also said that like there's not they haven't studied it long enough to really make like a firm assertion on that. Oh, yeah. I want to piggyback and come back a little bit to Novo versus, because I was talking pharmaceutical shop. Goss, the hot goss with AstraZeneca. And so, yeah, I am not gonna like just become like verbal diarrhea right here. But what I will say is that they said those people over at Novo are just so scared for their jobs right now. So
yeah, true that is some hot goss.
And that's all I'll say. She said some other things, but she's like, if you think about it, yeah, they just like canned like 3,000 people the week before Obesity Week.
Yes,
they just canned 3,000 people. Yeah, so brutal. She was like, "Girl, they're
I don't know about
they're nervous over there."
Obesity Week, but they laid off 9,000.
Was it 9,000
like a month ago?
I knew it was in
like
the
9,000 a month ago. I don't know if they laid off more right before Obesity Week, but it's not good.
Depending on the country, a lot of people, some of them still don't even know if they've been laid off yet, depending on the country.
Isn't that crazy? Yep.
Yeah. Getting close to knowing everyone knowing, but it was still rolling out as of Obesity Week.
Yeah. So that's what she said. Be easy on them.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of great.
I shouldn't be laughing.
I feel like there's like Dave and I are both excited about CagriSema. Like it's like, I think, but whatever, how that is. New CEO, clean house, all the things. I don't know. I've been there. I played off 12. It sucks. I love that. Well, those are the ones we went to. What about sessions? How about like Mike, what was a session that you went to that you found really beneficial that you think our listeners would want to hear about?
Gosh, not in the science space, but the obesity stigma session really stuck out to me. It brought in the some people from the OAC and people from Obesity Canada and the World Obesity, I think it's the World Obesity Federation, talking about it. It was really useful. You had to do an internalized obesity stigma sheet when you started, and how prepared you were to go after it later. And, you know, Zach and I were both in that session, and we did it. And it was a good session, but we didn't know how good it was until we went to dinner later that night. And we were in an interesting situation where our waitress kept really pushing for like, what conference are you at? And eventually we just said like a medical conference.
Yeah.
Then she kept pushing more, and she's like, I was at this conference. And we're like, no. And then Zach just looked at me. We looked at each other, and Zach looked up at her and said, it's Obesity Week. And she's like, obesity. And we pushed a little bit further, like a weight loss conference. And we're like, no, you know, you like Ozempic, Mounjaro, that kind of thing. And she then said, oh, what was it, Zach? That's a lifestyle issue, isn't it? Now, this is a woman who's not in a smaller body, right? Mm-hmm. And we literally looked at her and said, obesity is a disease. And 10, 15-minute conversation ensued before our order ever got put in. Yeah. You want to tell the rest of the story, Zach? I feel like I'm stealing your thunder.
Oh, no, not at all.
I want to, yeah, it's story time for both of you guys.
Yeah, no, it was, I mean, yeah, it was a very talkative conversation. And you could, one thing that Mike and I noticed in particular was you could actually see the thought process evolving in real time with someone. Yeah. Of like, they were taking on new information that total strangers were giving them, and then trying to process that. And it was kind of funny, because obviously she had other tables she had to take care of that evening, but she kept coming back to ours, and each time was another 5 to 10 minute interlude of this conversation. But she also was like, when I was back in the kitchen, I started talking to my manager about this, and then her manager like rose objections about like the GLP-1 meds or something. Yeah. And said, oh, isn't that bad for people? Or then it became, that's not for our, ethnicity or things like that. And it was just like, it was different objections started coming out of the kitchen that kept getting like brought up and brought back over the table to Mike and I, or these aren't for curvy women because we love our curves. We want to keep them. Can I choose? She literally asked us, can I choose where I lose the weight from? And Mike and I were like, boy, did we wish we could. Right? That was pretty much like our response to them. But it was a really good conversation. And she asked us right at the end that, like, if I wanted to do something about this, what do I do? Like, what is my first step? And we literally just said, listen, go talk to your doctor about this. And they are the best person to, direct your care in it. And then Mike and I both said, if you don't feel that person is the right person to have a care with, try to find someone who's an obesity medicine specialist if you can. We both left there pretty like positively happy with like the interaction. Like it was just like completely unexpected, but like really felt like we were in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
I'd gone to the right session in that day. Like it wasn't the part of the session that had knocked my socks off, right? Yeah. There was an amazing part after this where they went through obesity stigma in AI, and it was really interactive, and I can talk to that in a minute. It was one of these things where you didn't realize how much a session had impacted you until you actually lived in the moment. I don't know if Dr. Pashby's here, but Dr. Pashby is one of the people on the panel, and it was awesome. It turned out it was super impactful.
Yeah.
And the amount of people that conversation influenced, it wasn't just that one woman, because it was every wait staff member. They were all engaging in these conversations around us, the whole restaurant at the Hard Rock Cafe in Atlanta. We just wandered in looking for like anything because we were starving.
That is so. That makes me think about what Kim always says about how like the general public and media and marketing does gravitate towards those extremes, where somebody was very heavy and then became very, 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 very almost like, very, very, very slim. And that doesn't happen to everybody. And so there was that popular misconception, when the server said, am I going to lose my curves? Well, because all we see, if you take yourself out of this vacuum that we are in and we go outside of it, you notice how much more notoriety, for lack of a better definition, that the ones who lose significant amounts and become extremely slim, those are the ones that seem to kind of get more popular, more pushed.
Well, I think that if we're thinking sort of about the core psychology of our, because as a marketer, I can totally speak to the psychology of it, whatever. No, but I think in general, like when you're thinking about thinness, right?
Yeah.
And when you're on an algorithm and it tends to go towards the extremes, or it tends to go to the norm, or to so for example, you may see a lot of people that are Caucasian versus people that are in the minorities. You may see a lot of people in big bodies or very, very big bodies, right? But you don't see a lot of people in the middle. And the truth is that most people, according to the data, they're in the middle. And I think that it is a very common misconception that this is a skinny shot from people that aren't hanging out with us in our, vacuum, right, of TikTok, where we're all just like in this just perpetual conversation where we think we've, people know, and they just don't know. And I think that it's important to recognize the way that technology works, and it works like that because technology has bias because of we do, right? And I think it's okay for us to admit, I think, everybody has bias, right? I think, but we need to find a way to go, okay, recognize it, and how do we move past it and do better? And those are the conversations that I think that are important that we have, even when they're kind of hard. And I saw something that you posted on LinkedIn, Mike. It was something like, help me understand, or something like that, when you were talking about trying to understand things better. It was, you said when people are misunderstanding you, that you find that if you say this phrase instead, how can I help? Or it was something like that. Do you remember?
Yeah. It's how can I help?
How can I help? Yeah.
And what can I do next to help? Just put one step in front of the other and ask yourself, how can I help the cause, right? That kind of thing. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think sometimes people think that just because we're the ones here that are making this content, that we're because this is a movement, guys. I mean, clearly, right?
Yeah.
And I've been bitching about it for years, I know, but it really is. And we are the ones who are here and showing up and going outside of TikTok and on Instagram, all these places. We are leaders in this movement. AJ's here. She's live on TikTok. She's we've got Carrie's got podcasts. We're all pieces of this, but nothing moves the content. It'll just sit there and stay there, other than the people that are here and that are commenting and sharing. Right? That's what moves it. So it's not that just the people that are making the videos are the leaders, we all are. And I think it's important that we remember that as we continue this momentum, because there's a lot of work to be done. And I think that we can probably talk a little bit about now, when you and I went into the immersion, Mike, what we were like, and then we'll go back to our friends and see how they felt about it. Does that sound good?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
So when Mike and I walked in, go ahead. Yeah, Middle.
Before we move on, I want to say,
Sure.
I'm in the process of writing a book on how to self-advocate. And the premise behind this is that when you advocate for yourself, you're advocating for every single one of us. So that conversation that Mike and Zach had was advocating for every single one of us.
Yeah.
And I believe that self-advocacy has the potential to change the world. Because if we're all advocating for ourselves, we're all advocating for each other. We're teaching our children how to advocate for themselves. And it's just a whole cycle.
That's so true.
Thank you, Zach and Mike, for having the courage to say it.
Yeah. And think of all the things that spark from that. I mean, it's all a movement. It's what they're going to say next and who they're going to say it to.
Well, just on that note, at OAC, at the end of the event at their gala back in July, I got up to the microphone and I said to all of those other patients that were in the room that might not necessarily have been sharing their stories, I said, remember, your sharing can affect one other person, which could affect another person. I said, you are the snowball at the top of the hill. Just give it the little push and let it roll, because we know that thing is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's the power. You don't know who else you're going to impact. Absolutely. And don't be afraid to have those conversations.
Absolutely. So true. And help help me understand is powerful engagement to help people. Yeah, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
that's the most. I think that's Nanette, one of the amazing people in this space, in the advocacy space.
We
Yeah.
met her.
Yeah,
Kim
That's
and Kat,
awesome.
you guys met her.
It's Nanette, right?
Was
Yeah.
that the first time that you guys met her at
Nanette.
Obesity Week? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
Nanette, red hair, glasses.
She's
Yes.
been-
We've met her for a
she's
long
been in the
time.
fight for-
Yeah.
Let's
Killer
come on the
perfume.
show. Yes.
With the killer
I know.
perfume.
So important. Expect y'all to know everything. Duh, clearly.
She was
Well,
one of the people who came up to us and
Yeah.
said that this year was different
it's
than every other year,
Uh-huh.
and that it seemed like a much warmer space.
Yeah, I agree.
I
I
heard
think
that from so many
I'm
people.
I'm really
It
excited to
seemed
see
less
how much
clinical.
I'll put on them. Yeah. Yeah. So one thing that was cool, our downsize friends aren't here, but if you guys follow the downsize, there's a YouTube channel over here. They had a whole booth and they were interviewing like everybody they could. Now Christopher said that's what I'm gonna do. He told me, he's like, I'm gonna go there, I'm gonna interview my face off. We're just gonna get all this content forever. And I was like, that sounds great. He was like,
Great.
that's what I was here for. And that booth was fire. And they had amazing, like Christopher's, he knows what he's doing. And they had like swag and all this different stuff. It was awesome. So it was so cool to like, and that was a massive patient presence, right? And that was just like, and they hadn't had that before, you know? So I think Plus Size should find a way to raise some money and save some money and get sponsored to be able to do something like that next year. I think it would be amazing. We all have to work together. And it was just so cool to see them just like trailblaze that. You know what I mean? Didn't you guys think that was neat? Yeah.
Their booth was incredible.
And
It
like
was
literally they
so
had like
cool.
plexiglass
Was right.
and they
yeah.
were interviewing like anybody that came by. They were like, come on, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. And it was just really
all the docs.
And they
Yep.
brought someone who's a 3D printer who was creating all sorts of like fun things. He had incretins, these little like dragons in the colors of the medications. But the thing they were giving away was the backbone of tirzepatide, these curly, green curly cues. It was
so
really
cool.
neat. You
You're
could
like,
stop
Kim,
at the
did you
table.
get your tirzepatide? And then we went back and got it.
They look like cat toys.
Cat toys.
They
Literally.
did look like cat toys. And then they had that little their cat JoJo pins, right?
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah, I love it. That was really neat. So one thing that we liked a lot, so Mike and I went to the Zepbound booth, and then he was kind of taking me around because he had been there all week. And he was like, let's go to the immersion experience. So you go, and I posted it. I didn't even edit it. And we went to the immersion experience, and it was, you walk in, and it was called like, what was I can't remember the title of it.
Hold on, I got it.
It's the bias or something like that.
No, it's thread. It's a thread
It was
because
thread.
the threads, because the threading.
Yeah.
Hang on.
Yeah.
I got it. Hang on. Everything was
When you
broken
go
down
in and there's
threads.
like this chill spa music, like, you know, and you're kind of walking in, and Mike and I are just like, all right, let's do this. You know, we walk in together and we're filming, and then we get to these sections with all these garments, right? And all these garments have like literally like digital
thread setter.
systems
That's it.
happening
Thread
on them.
setter. I wanted to say thread influencer. Was
Thread
it
setter? Is that what it's called? Thread
Yes,
setter?
instead of a trend setter, it's a thread setter. So everything
Oh,
you're seeing was the threads of
Yeah.
obesity.
So
Yeah.
when you go and you see the garments and you see the threads, you can see they're actually writing words like bad words that you say to yourself, like when you
How
were in a
they
larger
felt, yeah.
body, right? And you felt bad about it and blamed yourself. Which, you know, there's a lot of content that I talk about, right? And I walked in and I saw these jeans. And these jeans look just like my jeans, like before I got started. And I had this moment where I remember Dr. Toomer saying to me, because I got very emotional, where I heard Dr. Toomer saying to me, you know, you're healing when you forget, you know? And so I remembered that. And because I did forget. And it wasn't that I ever felt bad in my jeans. You know what I mean? It was more about, like, as I always thought my mom would not allow me to not think that I was beautiful and wonderful and smart and all the things. Because I grew up in a big body, and she didn't other me, you know, and she really tried to help me understand that it was more than a body. Even though we went through diet culture together and all those things, she would not let me say those bad things about myself. She'd be like, oh, hell no. You are beautiful. You are smart. You are this, you are that. And so all of those things were just sort of rushing over me, like as I was watching this pair of jeans, this pair of skinny jeans, and thinking about the fact that I wasn't upset and then I wasn't mad, and then I was healing. And that how special this was, and like this moment was, to be able to see this. And each one of these garments had patient stories of the people's garments that this belonged to. And you could hit the button and hear. And I'm very tall, so I couldn't hear it very well. But you could press the buttons and you could scan them and then go and listen to the patient's story, like on a landing page somewhere else, which is like a web page. And so that was really like powerful to be able to go around and just sort of see. And there was, I know Mike had a moment like kind of similar, but I'd love to hear what you were thinking.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of the most powerful things you can imagine. It was dimly lit, constant stories coming at you in words. But when you got into the room with the clothes, and I posted a video about it as well, I feel like it was triggering for a lot of people because it hit a lot of people's sort of soft spot around something, whether it was shame in their body or a fear. And the thing, it wasn't so much shame of my body with me. That's not been my issue, but it was a fear. It was a t-shirt that said, if I was afraid that if I had ever ripped, I couldn't like replace it. Right. Like, and as someone who business travels a lot, and who knows where every single DXL is in every major market in the country, because he would forget things or something would be spilled and he'd need to buy a new shirt. That's the moment I went. I walked up to Kim and I said, they need tissues. And Kim was like, I have them. And it was, that part of it was super powerful. The other thing I loved was at the end, you could take your personality test within the movement, right?
Yeah.
And what I loved about it, and this was a space where I truly felt included in Obesity Week. As you went down sort of this choose your own adventure of personality test, it actually would be like, I'm an advocate. I'm an advocate on social media. I do. And I was like, it just kept going. I was like, it sees me. Like, it actually sees me in this space and what I've been doing. And I was the challenger. I can remember the personality type. And I really felt seen in the exhibit. Now, I know people had different responses, but for me, that it wasn't so much the bathing suit and people looking at me, and it wasn't that kind of thing, because that I didn't feel that way. But the constant fear of like not being able to get my needs met in society in a larger body, that was what got me.
Oh yeah, that's a really interesting insight. When we were leaving, there were these little like what do you call them? Cue cards. What do you call them? These post-its?
Yeah, post-it notes.
And there was all these threads, right? Yeah. And I look over and I see one that says Curvy Girl Beth. And I was like, I know Curvy Girl Beth. I met her at Obesity Action Coalition, like Your Weight Matters conference. And I was like, wait, is this like happening right now? And then I realized she was there. So you signed it and you basically pledged. It was a pledge, right? To be able to help like break the stigma. So I signed Kim of the Plus Sides and I took a picture next to Beth's and I sent it to her on Instagram. I was like, are you here? Like, I see her. She's like, I am. And that was just really like a cool, fun connection. And like, so I mean, I feel like Mike and I, like you see, we had very different perspectives, which I love. I'd love to know exactly what you do when you
I'm trying to butt in. Hi.
Just do it.
Perspective stuck with
14 years. Just be like, shut the fuck up, Kim. Like,
I went through it.
I am going to talk to your daddy about that.
And I've been telling everyone what she said.
Not in my world. You don't use that language, lady.
Oh, no.
Talk to your daddy. No, when Kim was saying was, Kim called me a thug.
You are a thug.
She called me a thug at the Zepbound what the immersive, and Amanda and I had we had a stimulating conversation about it. So those jeans.
That's right, Debbie.
Yeah, you should go, Debbie.
Yes.
Those jeans challenged me. So when I looked at them, I was like, she got a great figure. Like, okay. But it made me think of, it made me draw on my own experiences where I realized how much there's like maybe two different kind of worlds I lived in. Whereas where I coming up, definitely othered, tried to fit in, tried to be slim. But then when I moved away from my home base and I made friends with a few, I would call them plus-sized baddies, I learned I learned the game. Like I learned the game. But in any case, so when I guess when you're younger and you're ashamed of shopping at, say, a Lane Bryant or a plus sized outlet, I wasn't. I never was. I never was. At that point on. But the jeans made me think of the mannequin that Lane Bryant has. So if you guys ever go into a Lane Bryant, the mannequin is modeled after an Olympic speed skater. So let's just sit and think about that for a second.
Yeah.
This is an Olympic athlete. She is the model, the body type for a plus sized outlet. And so those jeans reminded me of that. And so I'm always challenged by this notion that like I'm still in a plus sized body. I don't know if I want to ever get into like a non plus. But it just challenged me. It didn't I didn't feel so much as triggered, but just challenged. Like what
Like, how do I
what
feel?
is it for you? Yeah. Like where do you want to be in all of this? Because I always felt, even like, in a larger body, largest, heaviest, fitness was always a big part of my life. It was catching up to me. I would say that my obesity really was starting to catch up. It was starting to get out of control, but I was challenged. I was challenged. I really wasn't. I didn't feel. I don't know. And then the bathing suit was cute too. I looked at the bathing suit, and she realized people were looking at her, but she felt so good in her bathing suit. I just got to a point when I was heavy, like I didn't give a shit anymore. Like, okay, you can look all you. I mean, okay, here. It's just like yeah, you're right, Beth. 67%, size 14 or above. But that just made me think, like, that figure of a mannequin is an Olympic athlete. And then you think about like how Serena Williams went on a GLP-1 as well. Like, we're baddies. Like, so I was very challenged. I was very challenged by this notion. So we're in this crux of body positivity.
Yeah.
But here we are where we have this new therapy that really has revolutionized our everybody. It's revolutionary. So yeah.
So Beth was saying, Curvy Girl Beth's here. She's our friend and advocate.
Hey, Curvy Girl Beth.
She says 67% of women in the US are a size 14 or above. And then she says that 18% of clothing is made, and only 18% is made in those sizes.
Yeah. And then there was also the worry that I had, well, because Americans, we love to categorize and single things out and make everything separate to everything, right? So I recall Kim and I did a live a couple years ago. It might have been one of our first ones where they may be doing away with like plus size departments for stores because people are starting to shrink so much. And that really just like concerns me.
It make me feel sad. Yeah. There's one that's here in Atlanta that closed down. And it was like, it has like a regular section and then it has a plus size one. It was sort of like, it was
we still need those plus sizes. Yeah.
They closed it online. They closed it totally. And I went to go get something for some event that we had happening for plus size. And I couldn't. And I felt so sad about that. Cause like I knew I could go still and probably get something at a size 14 at a regular store. And while that's cool and everything, but there's usually more to choose from, like, especially if you're like right on the, like, right between 14 and 16 or right between 14, and so I feel more comfortable there. And I've always gone there. Like, I mean,
I agree.
When I was in school, like when I was in middle school and high school, like I did have to, there was no Lane Bryant. Like I shopped in the women's section, and then when I got to middle school, high school, and there was a Lane Bryant, then I shopped there, but it was made for moms. So I was trying to make things cute.
Very much like a Catherine's, right?
Yeah. Very, sure. Yeah. Like that. And then eventually they kind of caught up.
Very curtain. Very furniture.
Yeah. And so like, I think we've gotten better, like with I think plus size fashion for sure. But I think that it's more about like, you really just want something you feel comfortable in that's sort of like cut for the way that your body is. And ultimately, like, I'm still not in a size small body after this. Like I'm actually happy about that because I feel like that would challenge everything I think about myself if I was not plus side.
Oh,
Like,
it does.
And how do we challenge that? Like, where does it?
yeah.
I'm going to have to do a lot of writing on this. But it's also
That's
like,
good.
if you think about it, it's also like, like an intrinsic sort of thing that we have probably just been ingrained in our psyches all along. That, you know, the slimness is the standard.
Yes.
Or it was just fascinating.
I mean, if I keep this up, I'm going to be shopping at Baby Gap. So,
Oh my God.
Baby stud gap.
Right.
I gotta figure that out. But you hit the nail on the head of like, you know, it does challenge everything that you know, because it has. And at the conference too, I believe it might have been Dr. Pashby talking about it, or maybe it was in your live the other night, Mike, where she was in there, but about how it takes so much longer for our brains to heal after the weight is gone. Because I mean, I can tell you, last night I put a shirt on and it felt tight and I immediately took it off.
Oh my God. So you freak out?
I mean, I kind of did, but it was funny is clothing is not universal either in its sizing anymore. A small is
It
not
is not, absolutely not. It's not.
Yeah.
And yeah, so like that like gets you too, because like when I reach for one thing and it's one size and I'm like, oh wow, I can't believe I'm wearing this, and then I put one on that's 2 sizes larger but it fits the exact same way as the other one does, I'm like, what is this? I just put on weight again. But I didn't.
We get this like internalized obsession, so it's still there. Like it's I guess it's a never ending process of this self acceptance. You know.
Yeah. Debbie was saying she remembers that her mom in the 60s and 70s were making her own clothes because their
mom used to make my clothes. Yep.
In the 60s
Welcome
and
to
70s.
the 60s.
Dr. Pashby said your brain doesn't heal. Adipose tissue heals faster than your brain.
Yeah.
And I found that just so deep. She said it both my live and at the conference.
That's amazing.
But it's also funny, like, as we think about our bodies and our sizes, right? Like,
yeah.
Zach brought a sport coat that's a non-scale victory for me. It's Zach at his heaviest, and I fit in it, and it was a size smaller than I thought I would, and I was like celebrating, right? So
yeah.
You wore it around the last day of the conference.
I did.
That
but it's
was
ironic.
a little big on you, Mike. That one that you were in the when that was Thursday that we were together.
Thursday, yeah. So this was like a 48, and like it's funny to me because it's like I realized the same thing with my husband. I'm using all of his clothes that were at his heaviest, and you know he's lost 90, and it's like it's all different for everybody, right? But I'm just like
it truly is. Yeah.
Store. I'm just happy to be shopping in a normal store. I don't have a ton of options in my sizes, but you know, at those stores, but at least if I lose something or I forget something, I can shop like a normal person, go to a Marshall.
But I think that's really true, like what you said though about knowing that you can have your needs met, and then you're not going to have to feel embarrassed or ashamed or lost or scared or any of those things that you feel when you can't have your needs met, right? So I feel like that was like really powerful. I totally related with that. Like you just want to be able to be okay, you know, and when we forget things and we move, and I think we're always trying to like get there, you know. But I loved that. What about Amanda? What did you think?
I was in there with Kat, and I'm so glad that I had that opportunity because she challenged me. So I'm walking around like crying because the music, you said it was like a spa.
It was very spa there.
It was like a depression, like an episode of depression.
Really?
That music was made to make you cry. Every person I talked to was like, "Did you see the Zepbound experience?" I cried. Yeah. You walk in and you're like, oh, "Okay, I'm ready, cheer ducks." I'm walking around, taking it all in, and like really feeling every single thing that I'm reading. Like deeply spoke to me. And then I see those jeans, and my God, everyone apparently really focused on these jeans, but I'll tell you why they stood out to me. I'm like walking around it with my camera, and I get to the back and I was like, God, that butt is fat. Like in a good way. Like my husband would be feeling these jeans right now. Okay. And so I'm like sad. I see the jeans and I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this. Right. And then I hear Kat talking and I'm like, what's up? And she's like, this is really challenging me because I think that mannequin looks great. And like, you know, like a healthy Olympic skater. And I'm like, you know, I'm right there with you. And it's true that not everyone is going to be a size 0. Not everyone should be or is meant to be a size 0. And there still needs to be room for loving your body at every stage.
Yeah.
So that challenged me because I was like,
Yeah.
I didn't know how
Amanda,
I felt
you
about that
also
afterwards
made
either.
you also pointed something out when we first walked in, and I was like, yeah, I can hear Kim getting angry in my head, but I was like, oh, but they need to do this. What was it? It
Yeah.
was with diet and there was
Diet and
something where
exercise, changing your
I
lifestyle.
hate when they say lifestyle because it's diminishing what my life was before. And I don't think that the way I behaved before was because of anything that had to do with me. It was because of my disease. And so I don't like when we refer to lifestyle changes or diet and exercise. I feel like those words need to go away. I know that sounds weird, but like I wish I could explain it better than the way that I do. But it bothers me because
it's a little patronizing.
It is. And and I think too, that's been the prescription for us the majority of our lives, right? You go to the doctor, diet and exercise. And now they're saying, oh, medicine and diet and exercise. And I'm like, can't we just like have everything in moderation? Don't we deserve to have rich, full lives? Like, isn't that allowed? And can't we have a space or words that sort of just like are better? And so to me, it's like movement, nutrition, community, mental health, medicine. Like that's like living my best, healthiest life that I can live. You know what I mean? And I think that we all have different ways to talk about it, but I will always hear, you know what I mean? You're fat and you're not enough, or you're too much. Anytime someone says diet and exercise to me, and that's stuff I got to work through. But I wish that if we're really trying to transition out of this, a lot of times in movements, we find new ways to say things. I mean, there's several things that Mike has even said, no, we have different language around that now that he was learning at the show, which we should touch on, Mike, because I think this is a massive, we knew this was a movement the whole time we've been here, guys, but people are just figuring it out. Do you know what I'm saying? And I think that if we can find a way to kind of define that of what makes the most sense, then that would be really positive going through. Hey, Brian, I'm so glad you're here.
Hey, Brian's here.
Can I just also say that exhibit, it's interesting that our reactions to it,
Guys talking.
It literally wasn't designed for us.
Right.
It was designed for, there were 4,500 people or so at that conference, and there were that I met, maybe 20, 25 patient advocates, maybe if it's that high. So the vast majority of people were medical providers, most of whom are not on GLP-1 medications or bariatric patients, right? Yeah. Most of them. It was designed to build empathy for others. And it's just interesting to think about that from that angle, right? Because it affected us, many of us, not you, Kat, because you have no heart, but
I do.
Oh, someone else to pick on Kat. Yay.
But
Zepbound has great cardiovascular benefits, I hear.
But it was,
yes.
It was literally designed to like help doctors build empathy.
Yeah.
Because think about it, we're not seeing that advertising
elsewhere. They did? Like, I'm wondering.
I mean, I was watching the doctors and physicians in the room, and what I thought was interesting was how many were watching us, Kim, move through it.
Yeah.
Right. The personalization of it.
Yeah. I did love the special effect of our shadows when we were looking at the wall. You could see Mike and I's shadows and our, like, I don't know. There was something going on in my brain there where it was just like connecting it was getting me in a place to cry. Like, it was really intuitive.
And Nanette, I know there's tons of doctors on them, but it's just not the majority of them in that room, in that space.
Yeah.
Could you talk about that one seminar you guys went on that you felt a little flaccid?
The food?
I had to say the word flaccid. I had to. It felt kind of flaccid.
Amanda, you went to a food seminar.
You see what I deal with?
I did not go to a food one, but this is not what we're talking about, but I have to ask before I forget, did you go to the compounding one?
Yes, yes, I did.
Because Sabina reached out and she was like, did you go to it? And I'm like, no, I was catching a flight. I have so much FOMO right now because I had to leave the last day I missed.
Okay, so
I need to know all about that.
Here we go.
All right, let's organize. First things, hold your pin, okay, for the compound. Go back to the one where you felt flaccid, and then we'll go to.
Are you talking about the food one we went to?
You felt kind of like, what the heck is this?
Oh, the one Mike and I went to?
Yeah. That was the flaccid one, right? The food.
It was flaccid.
So So one of the things that surprised me,
Yeah.
and this is true for this session, but other sessions as well,
Yeah.
is that things that like seem like 101 to me and to Kim or others based on lived experience often would get people's, like the doctors would be like, oh, interesting. And I'm like, is it though?
Is it?
And we went to one on food policy, right?
Yeah.
RFK food policy. It was just very,
Oh Lord.
yeah, it was very, I don't know. They talked about some things about junk food and what other countries are doing. And it just felt like stuff we all talk about in our community sometimes, that it seemed like breaking news to the doctors, to the point that Kim and I texted each other and we left and went and found Kat and we made a soap opera.
Yeah.
I
I did like the doctor that
was a
came
dog
on after
park.
that guy. She was kind of great because she was like, we need to do both, guys. Like, and then she was talking. I really would love to connect with her because I was liking where she was going. I was like, this is very plus sides, right? Like, I was like, we need to have her on the show. But like before that, I sent back a message. I go, wait, I don't understand. Are we talking about changing the food system from taxes from a punitive perspective? And he goes, yes. And then the other person was like,
Really?
oh yeah. And yes, that like, and then they put labels on the food that basically said, this is, and they were showing it in another language. So, and I don't read any other languages, but it was basically like, this is bad poison. Don't eat it, you know? And putting that on, like, I'm just going to say it, Frosted Flakes, because I'm not sponsored. Frosted Flakes, and like a thing. And then they were saying that, oh, well, we noticed that people, and they were, I couldn't really understand how they noticed and what equaled noticed, but they were saying that like, we saw that people were buying less of that food, and that we think it's because we put the label on it, and they decided that the kids were saying, I don't want that, Mom, because that's bad. I want the healthy thing. So it was all very this like psychological, like punitive thing. And I actually went to Mike and I go, I feel like he needs a slide that says that. There's nothing like it was hard to follow, like as a patient. And so then like they go on to the next and they're talking, and I was like, but nobody said if that affected the obesity rate. Yeah. Like there was nobody going like, and then that was the language that I used wrong, Mike. Remember? Yep. I said obesity rate, and then you said, wait, no, we talk about it like this now.
Yeah. So Ted Kyle, who was on many of the panels that was there, did an article on his conscient health a week earlier, where he said he was chiding the media on saying the obesity rates are dropping in the country, because the rates of obesity are not dropping. Obesity is a chronic disease. The BMI of the country is dropping. More people are in remission in their disease of obesity, but obesity is not disappearing from the country. The disease is still there; it's just treated.
Yeah.
And let's be honest for a second too. That study about health and weights going down was self-reported.
Yeah.
What chance would you take to, shave 20 pounds off whatever you were when you were reporting your data to your doctor or something like that, just so that you can feel a little bit more confident? Like I've lied about my weight before. Sure. When I was heavier. I don't now. I feel much more confident about where I am now. But, it's, the BMI is definitely going down. People are getting healthier, but we have to realize also we got to still convince the masses that obesity is very much a disease and requires ongoing treatment. Not just a snapshot of data.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good point, and something that I definitely think we should refer to differently, like going forward. You know what I mean? Because I think that is the case, right? That is the fact that we have all the science to support that is what is true, right? So many years and so much data. Yeah. So I think like it's interesting because I do even hear the doctors, our doctors speak of that graph of where, like, if you remember, it was like a year ago, but like Weight Doc and a lot of the doctors that we respect a lot were talking about how the obesity rate stopped for the first time in like 50 years. And what they were talking about was this graph that was tracking BMI, right? And they were like, and we think there's no direct correlation, like automatically within a study, but we can make the assumption that it is the availability and accessibility of GLP-1 medications that is the reason we have seen this halt. You know what I mean?
So I'm just going to put a pin in this, but one of the best sessions I went to was a debate around BMI that I could talk to later.
Oh,
it was fire.
Oh my God, I can't wait to hear.
Yeah, I was about the body roundness index too.
Yeah,
it was part of what they talked about.
Okay.
They talked about Me 360 in it.
Oh, great. Okay. Let's go to Brian's question, and then we're going to go to Amanda's pen, and then we're going to come back to your pen. See, I can do this, guys. All right, Brian. While it was moving, did you feel any way like polarizing? I feel like sometimes patronizing. I feel like sometimes the education around the obesity experience can be a bit of a catastrophe is it?
Caricature.
Let me put on
caricature. You need your glasses, my dear.
I did not feel that way. Did you guys?
I was ready for it. Honestly,
Yeah.
I was ready for the patronizing, but I was very surprised.
Yeah,
I did not.
I did not feel that way. Yeah, at all.
Let's maybe the flaccid one, you guys.
The flaccid one, yeah, I would say like, no, I mean, I never really. It was.
I'm gonna make this a thing, guys. Flaccid.
They were speaking to us as if we were their colleagues and not patients because wasn't a patient event, right? So, but I didn't feel like they were being patronizing. At least I didn't. I think more on the food one, it was just sort of like, let's just talk about data. But there was this thing where they were talking about, one time we took these people, like sometimes they talk about the studies, like we're rats, right? And we gave them all McDonald's and KFC, and we noticed that we gave them 1,000 calories a day. Of course, they gained weight, but we've learned that it's not even about the food. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, ultimately, like, go ahead, Mike. Yeah, go ahead.
So I did one of the big auditorium style sessions in the big room. I think we went to. Did you guys go to that big room at all? The giant room.
Most of them we were there, yeah.
And one of the sessions was about food. Well, it was about what happened to make the obesity rates explode. And you would have thought it was going to land on food. And they were actually making an argument in I thought, somewhat problematic language. I'm not going to lie. There was a lot of problematic language at the conference, not the majority by far, but there was shocking the number of doctors who didn't use patient-centric language. Let's just say that. But one of the things that this one gentleman was making the point that in 1920, there's a massive change, right? We leave the fields. I think that phrase was used, and suddenly there's cars, and we're working in offices, and it's slowly building. And he sees the period where we all know that ultra processed food arrives on the scene is not ultra processed foods. It's a tipping point of all the lifestyle changes, and that might have been what tipped it over the edge. It was an interesting conversation around how obesity got to where it is. But anyways, I was surprised that it wasn't simplified down to, and it was the food. The food was completely an afterthought to lifestyle changes. I thought was weird.
What was the lifestyle change that they were tracking that was different?
So at 1920, the car comes along. We start to move into the office. There's literal lines that showed women moving less and men moving more, meaning men were like now doing like some more household chores, and women were now sitting at desks. And it was sort of the change in 1920 is sort of the mark of when we became society as we know it now, where we work in offices and we drive cars and we don't walk, and convenience became a thing. And that we could actually change society by removing some convenience as opposed to the food, which I found
interesting. That would affect less.
I was thinking
it makes sense.
The ultra processed food. I'm like, are you going to ignore the ultra processed food? I wanted to get up and ask, but
I mean, on a sugar. Real quick. It's a fact that I love. On a sugar note, in like the U.S. in the 50s, the average American consumed about 4 pounds of sugar a year. Currently, it's between 100 and 152 pounds per person per year on average in the United States of sugar. So, sugar is one of those things that obviously got added to a lot of things, and then of course but this is in a world of sugar substitutes even now. We're still consuming that much. So I just love to throw like that one out there because it's really like picture like 150 pounds of sugar in your house or something like that. Like that's like a pallet of sugar that we on average
per year
as an American.
I mean, I agree. I mean, I see it. I'm a baker. I go through sugar a lot.
Like, I got a pallet right here and make me some cake.
Yeah.
It's because you're so sweet.
And you're
so nice. Thank you. You're so sweet too.
I freelance write about GLP-1s, and one of the
Oh, I like that.
topics that was assigned was the history of GLP-1s, or the history of, GLP-1s and the obesity epidemic and like what started it and everything.
Yeah.
And in all the research that I did, food was like the number one thing. I kept trying to find something else. I'm like, please give me a reputable source that says that it's not food related. I couldn't find one. I
And
could
that's
find like obesity is caused and continues to be like an issue because of all of the things around us. I mean, there's like
Yeah.
pesticides on Mount Everest. Okay. Like we're surrounded by endocrine disruptors and like we're eating out of plastics and like all
Yeah.
of these things do have an effect. We're on medications, like, but the food was the tipping point in all of the research that I'd seen where it was just like, boop.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think maybe we have to take into account, that's just something I'm just thinking of as well, is like with Industrial Revolution and also rationing, Great Depression, war, a lot of those convenience foods came about because there's nothing to eat, like processed cheese. We had to find some way to get dairy in,
Oh,
right?
butter was very expensive. Like I've watched recently, many of, we've had many people that we know and need their SNAP benefits, and we're not going to get into politics. We don't do that here. We talk about two things. It's okay. But regardless, it's a thing that's happening. And I've seen a lot of things coming by my feed. It's been very interesting perspective change to see where they were like, these are the things that you can cook. This is the thing they cooked during the Great Depression. These are the like things that would stick and that would last.
Hot dogs.
You know what I mean? I would send them to him, like, so interesting. Because I sent it to Sabina, because Sabina was telling me that her dad, like when they would peel the potato, that they wanted to peel it so close over their tomato because they were trying to get all of the nutrients you possibly could.
Skin's full of great nutrients, the potato skins.
But like we're very like carby, sticky, like substance, like types of foods, not let me burn it off. It was more like let me survive, right? It was just a different way. And I think that's an interesting thing to think about.
Cold cereal.
Thing, right? But like when Kat and I went to a happy hour with Ro after, and to meet a lot of people that we work with like in that space. And we met this doctor who grew up in Mumbai, and he was telling us like he's been studying obesity for 45 years, that his dad was actually started the first practice in India for obesity. And then now he lives here, and his
Dr. Nick.
Yes. And he was talking with us about it. And he was like, honestly, it's not obesity, it's obesities. There are a lot of different kinds of obesities. And he was like, and it is a disease. And then the lady was a scientist that was with him, goes,
nutrition
is all genetic. And I don't mean obesity being genetic, your weight. She's like, I'm telling you, I've seen the data. It's all genetic. Like, and it's so interesting when you think about it that way, but a lot of people, don't you guys find, have a hard time with that because it's like it's shifting accountability. Have you noticed that?
It really is.
They don't want us, they feel that we need to be accountable if we are not in the obesity disease category. Do you know what I'm saying?
Because
like,
they want to think they didn't do the work, that they're not working really hard at it. And it's like, I'm not saying you're not working hard, but I'm also saying your genetics are working with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like there is only the body you are in. And like we have had people argue, I've had doctors argue on the show with me before, not argue, discuss kindly, right? That legitimately you could restrict and do all these different things and get the size body that you want. You would probably hate your life, right? But that you could, that you could do that and make yourself get there. And I think that there is a certain place where we all get to when we're trying to get whatever goal weight equals for us, where we're trying to make that decision, right? Like, it's like, okay, what equals okay for me, and what life am I wanting to live? Do I want to live that restrict and bodybuild and this and that? And do I look like Zach with his arms? I don't know. Laura's pretty fired. There we go. The gun show over Zach.
To the gun show.
But seriously, I mean, I think that's like something just for us to like all think about. And I think it's interesting. So what tell us a little bit more about the body roundness. Like, what did they say about BMI?
Oh, so the Lancet Commission is the commission that looked at BMI, right? And so they had Dr. Robert, I'm gonna forget the last woman's name who argued against it. But if anyone's in the room who was there, if you can fill that in. But it was Dr. Robert Kushner and Dr. Fatima Cody Stanford, who was just, in my mind, a goddess, one of the true gods of this profession.
We missed that. That was a power one. Oh,
we didn't miss shit. I'm getting her.
they explained what they had done with the Lancet Commission to move beyond BMI, right? That looking back as far as Tuskegee look at the racism built into the system, looking at we all know the racism built around BMI and how it doesn't take into account different racial differences in terms of on so many things. We looked at, white children versus black children and obesity rates and all sorts of things. And they made the case very strongly for why this was a right move. And then the counterpoint got up. And immediately it was like, oh, wow, this is, I understand why you think it's a mistake. All right. That this idea that this is an ongoing conversation. And if it stops right here, it's actually a huge error. And that how we measure body roundness in the doctor's office really, it still needs to be the scale. It's the only thing we can scale up really easily, right? Like we can't have DEXA scans in all the offices, et cetera, et cetera. So they were going back and forth. And eventually, and I thought this was one of those moments where I realized our lived experience and the medical lived experiences are very different. Her final point against Lancet was to say, look, there's some really easy tools you can do to measure body types in an office that don't cost much. And she pulled out and she said, this is an app called Me360. And she was explaining to them in the room. And I was sitting next to a doctor who I know well. And she leaned over and said, did you hear what the name of the app was? And I looked at all the doctors in the room were trying to look up Me360. And I looked at her and I said, you guys don't know that? That's just common knowledge on TikTok. And it was really this amazing thing where they were super excited to learn about this app they could use with their patients. And I was like, we use it a lot for body dysmorphia issues so that people not having their face can disassociate their body with their shape. It was just, the whole thing was fire. The end result was, I'm really glad they did the work. I really hope it continues and it's not the final say. And the big worry is that by creating preclinical and clinical obesity, which are the new two sort of super categories, that we may have given the insurance companies a new tool to deny us medications. And it was interesting in the fact that, Dr. Fatima Cody Stanford said, look at Massachusetts, all of the health insurances are eliminating it as of January 1 for coverage for GLP-1s. So they don't need this to do that. And then the next day, the White House made its announcement. And that BMI of 35, I heard it. And I was like, ding, ding, ding. There's the Lancet Commission, in use to help define it. So it was interesting.
And the Lancet Commission basically adds, there was a session I went to it on that was different than Mike's. If that gets adopted, that's an additional 46 million more Americans that would be labeled as overweight or obese on over the BMI, current indicator, which everyone complains. My BMI, it said I was overweight. This other one, I went to a session and it literally said if that goes through, it would add 46 million more Americans to that label.
Wow, 46 million.
Maybe missing something because I was potty breaking, but can we put the brakes on for 1 second, Mike? And can you recap on what you mean? Because I watched that announcement with you and I didn't hear BMI of 35, but now I'm scared. Was that in the announcement?
Where did they use it? They used it somewhere in the announcement, not for everything, but
it's on. I think it's the White House page because I use their fact sheet to make my TikTok.
I looked at the fact sheet because someone brought that up to me. It was on NBC News. And I was like, I don't remember this. I did all the research for this pricing to make sure that I had it right for this video I made and the chart that I made. I'm like, I don't remember a BMI of 35 being mentioned. And from what I see, it wasn't.
I heard it that day. I haven't read anything. I heard it.
Only audio.
I remember I when I was researching and we know let's talk about that real quick. So the announcement with Trump is something that happened. Look, to be clear, again, this is a bipartisan podcast. There are political things we discuss, but we're bipartisan because everybody deserves to have education and care and love and community. So just so you know, we're not going there. Okay. So What we're talking about here is just what happened and the announcement that Trump made and the changes that we think are going to come. I feel like, Mike, could you explain that? Because you explained it like an earthquake. And I love the way that you explained it so that they can understand what this means for us.
So I was right after we filmed it. They filmed us watching this, Amanda, Zach, and I.
They, as in the documentary crew. So we're all featured in this documentary that's about this. So they were filming you guys.
Yeah.
I was with the lead sort of lobbyist on this cause for TROA, having coffee literally half an hour afterwards. And the way we described it to each other was it was an earthquake, right? Like there's nothing that's come along like this in GLP-1 access. And yes, there's a lot we don't know yet, and what the fine print is and what the footnotes are and all of that kind of thing. But it's such a big earthquake that right now we're going to be spending a long time sort of seeing how the ground shifted and what the changes are.
That's
so
definitely like an earthquake. Yeah.
And so what I know is that at least on that day, the day before that day, there were millions of Americans who didn't have coverage or whose meds were slightly or much more expensive.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that is, slightly or more. And the next day, there are people who have hope that within a few months, they're going to be covered. Yes. So for instance, my dad under Medicare, who has a BMI of about a 36 and hasn't qualified for Zepbound and has rheumatoid arthritis, which would do him a world of good, likely now qualifies under Medicare, right? So there's a lot of people who got access. So it's an earthquake. We've never seen anything like it. And, there's been a lot of talk where the CEOs of these companies have said over the years that when Medicare covered these medications, they would lower the price. Yeah. So that did happen. And what normally happens as a next step, not like an immediate next step, but part of a process, is over time, private insurance starts to pick up meds once Medicare covers it. So this earthquake is likely also has a cascading effect in the system. And that's making sure that happens is where the next sort of policy advocacy is going to be for a lot of people, is making sure we go through the normal process that any other medication and disease would have based on Medicare picking it up. And so that's where we're at.
So Mike was talking a lot about we need to codify this, right? It can't just be something that Trump says. We need to make this into law, because if not, then the next president can come and do whatever they want to do, right? And we want this to be seen as it is a disease, like seen as a disease, treated like a disease, and the way that other things are. And we've had many doctors on the show over the past couple of years that have said like Medicare does set the standard for care. So just like we don't know how long it's going to take, but I think like everything has sort of just been all of a sudden just like, I don't know, like we're talking about how this usually works in a broken system, but obesity, like to Sabina's point, like kind of the problem here is sort of changing how we're doing healthcare. Like at this point, we have pharma going around PBMs, right? And going, well, here's the medicine for this price. Just go through us, go through Lilly Direct, right? Or this price for Novo. So something is shifting in how healthcare is, not just because we're all sitting and bitching and whining when things get shut down and all these different things, like, but ultimately, like it feels like, just like you said, like an earthquake, like everything is. And so I don't think we're sure where the chips are going to fall. What I will say is my concern in this situation, and I want to make sure too, I had this boss once, he was really great. His name's Chuck at Red Hat. And he used to always say to me, assume nothing when you're making your messaging. Right. And he said, listen, like when it comes to what's going on here with all of this with Trump, I want to make it clear. Trump announced that Medicare, if you guys have not seen it or have not heard it or like me and don't know what to believe anymore, that's my next podcast, by the way, is that he announced that Medicare is going to cover these medications for obesity, not for type 2, like that's already a thing, for obesity. And then he was signing this in, or however it goes, and he was making this happen. He also announced something separate, which a lot of people got mixed up, which is Trump RX, which is this other thing where you would buy or go through to buy the medicine. It'll be prescription, all the things too. And it's the brand name, right? But that he announced what those prices would be, right? But what I was focusing on, because that's fine, whatever. But what I was focused on, because what I heard was $50 for Medicare. And I know for 3 years, that's what we've been fighting for, because Medicare sets the standard. And that
Yep.
was the system that we have and the system we work within. So that's what I heard. I heard all the other stuff. I was just like, yeah. But a lot of my friends didn't understand the impact of what that is to have these covered by Medicare, and that trickle down effect that we should in this broken system see. Right. So I think that just understand that, like, if you saw Trump announce that, that is what it was really two separate things. Right. Is that a fair assessment, friends?
I think so. And I'd also say that the big question a lot of people have is, how is it being covered under Medicare? And I do think what's interesting is people like, does it need to be codified? And it goes back to the interview that we did with David Kessler, Dr. David Kessler, who's also a lawyer. I think it's chapter 22 or 23 of his book. He makes a very strong argument that when the ACA was passed, they couldn't discriminate based on these things. And if obesity is considered a disease, it doesn't need to be codified in that way. If we're going to call obesity what it actually is, any president could have been covering these meds under that system, according to Dr. Kessler. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a doctor.
Right.
I just play on TV.
Yeah, I just play one on TV. I just play one on TikTok. Yeah, I think that's good. I wanted to make sure that we went to Brian's comment, just because I thought it was really good. But he said, I heard a fascinating take that obesity is a failure of human adaptation to massive environmental changes. Many of us just designed for energy storage and scarcity, not expenditure. I don't know. Is that what you say?
Yeah,
Expenditure.
And abundance. You're too smart. Well, it's because you're Dr. Brian now. You're using big words for me.
And you said exactly that at the conference. I heard that multiple times.
You did. Yeah. Interesting, right? So interesting. I love it. All right. So I feel like we had a couple pins. I think we had a
question.
Compound was the pin.
So the one I have is still related to what we were just talking about, and I want your take on it, actually.
Okay.
So the Danish Broadcasting Corporation called me to get my reaction. I was trying to get it with Mike and Zach in the room while the film guys were filming us, but they called me while I'm waiting for my Uber. Terrible timing. Anyway, they asked me this question that I'm curious what you guys think.
Yeah.
If there's a $50 copay, is it still affordable? Is it actually affordable for all of these people who are on Medicaid and Medicare? Is that affordable? What do you guys think?
I think it depends on who the person is on Medicare.
I agree.
If it's someone who's on Medicare for income, I think it's going to be a different issue than someone who's 66 years old.
Yeah.
So I think it in a lot of ways benefits the elderly. But I will say that I think with some education, I think a lot of people who have the income issue may in fact find that the savings that they have on food makes up for that copay. Right?
Yeah, oh my gosh.
For sure.
Yeah.
See, I don't know if anyone else heard it this way, but I thought I had heard it that they would be no more than $50. So
I heard 50. You heard no more than?
I that's how I recall hearing it, that it would be capped at no more than 50 for Medicare.
Well, with Medicare, they do have that weird ass donut hole thing, right? Like, which I'm not gonna lie, I don't understand. My parents are on Medicare. They don't even understand it. They just know sometimes they go and their GLP-1 is $200, sometimes it's $500, sometimes it's $20. You know what I mean? Like, they don't know. No one understands it. It's so weird. The whole system is bullshit. But regardless, they are on it. So I would tell you, for my mom, who was trying to come up with money for, because she was on it through Medicare and then they dropped her. And so she was saying specifically, like, that for her coming up with $50 instead of having to come up with $500, that she's now breaking out over 3 months because she's doing compound to be able to stretch that out to get the 7.5 that she needs. Then it's like, you know, that would be massive to them, right? Because my parents are 70 years old, right? So I think, but I would definitely say that my parents, I really wish I was intelligent enough to know like the stats around this, but my parents were upper middle class white people, like, you know, so I would say like, that's my perspective. And I don't know another one. So I think if we're thinking about other things, then I can't speak intelligently about it. But I think that you're right, Mike, that piece of what do I save? And that mind shift will have to be there, right? Like, where am I saving money? I would say in terms of eating out, like, I save so much money. because I don't have that constant urge like all the time to eat, right? So I'll eat what I have, or what's the house. It's just not big of a deal. It's more of like a function that I need to do, like normal people, right? So I think that is a very interesting way to say it. Is like where will you save?
Mm-hmm.
And will that be worth it? And I think a lot of people in this community would say it's worth it. Kat and I make a lot of jokes about selling pictures of our feet. I'm not going to lie, if we don't have our medicine.
I will. I'll do it.
I'll do it. We were like, how can we creatively do this?
I sell something else on the internet, but this is a PG.
Or Dad,
Pretty creative. I can help.
So.
Yeah. Send me the pictures. Send me the pictures, ladies.
Yep.
Okay. What other pen do we have? It was Compound was the next
Compound.
pen. Right?
Let's go.
Let's go. All right. Friends that went to the Compound, tell us.
Zach looks like he has something to say.
I got lots to say about that question.
Tell us.
I sat through from start to finish to talking to the doctors afterwards, or at least catching the ear of one of the doctors afterwards. I'm gonna say it wasn't all bad, but I multiple times have felt that they put together that presentation in order of good cop, lukewarm cop, bad cop. Or it just got basically, I know Mike came in about halfway through, but it got worse as it went on for like the viewpoint of Compound, if you will. But the very first doctor actually is a doctor here in my own backyard. Didn't know he was here, but Adam Gilden, a weight management and obesity board certified doctor, is also an associate professor of medicine at CU here in Denver, got up there and said that actually during the shortage, the hospital system was exploring getting into Compound themselves. So first of all, major medical system getting into discussing if they wanted to get into compounding, that's pretty big. Now, what ended up scaring them away was it got pulled off the FDA shortage list, and that's when they stopped the process. But he then gave a presentation of every single thing that they had looked at in terms of safety and efficacy and all of those related things on what they should be looking for a good qualified compounding pharmacy, good API. It was very informative. But he said some very I'm going to say pro-patient things towards the end. And I felt like one of them in particular was kind of calling out his colleagues a little bit. And that's why I said they put the good cop first.
Yeah.
Because he said at the end, he goes, even with today's news of the price reduction, these branded medications may still be out of the reach for some people. And there are going to be people who choose to still use Compound.
Yeah.
First of all, then he followed that up with the fact that as physicians, we need to make patients comfortable with us to tell us they're using Compound rather than hiding it from us, from the shame perspective. But more importantly, he said it is our responsibility to care for these patients and make sure that they are doing it safely.
Yes.
Amen.
Hallelujah. That is exactly right.
Hell yeah.
Oh, but wait.
Oh God.
Yeah. I don't recall a physician up until that point in time, like me actually being in a room or hearing one say that about Compound.
Yeah.
Like that was big for me to hear. But then it got worse.
Oh God.
Oh.
And then
That is a good analogy, Mike. The second speaker was a pharmacist.
Yeah.
And she basically broke down, okay, well, yes, there are these different APIs and there are all these different places where you can get Compound. And some of these places are not putting in the Compound the same API that is being used in the branded. So Semasalt is the one that kind of came up as the common denominator. It's not the same form that Novo is using, but some of the compounders are using the same form and some of them aren't. And the one that isn't studied and isn't, approved. So they were liking that more towards gray or black market, but they stopped short of calling that particular one because it was at least being produced by a 503 a compounding pharmacy.
Yeah.
But then they got into the gray research, and this is where she gets her stars for her presentation, because this is one of the first presentations I've actually sat through where they've made it differentiation between compound, gray, and black market.
Wow.
Because gray and black? They separated them in terms of the presentation.
Oh,
it was basically like what, Mike?
There's someone here on TikTok who apparently was in that session who says that woman's data was not broken out.
Interesting.
Just
not broken out between gray and black.
You're in the science zone. But I was surprised when I saw that today because you had told me that.
I mean, it wasn't perfectly broken out, but it was broken out to the point where they did have a slide on gray and black market, and they called them the research grade loopholes, or research chemicals is the term she used for that.
Okay.
So yeah, the whole thing was about, though, her presentation as a pharmacist seemed to be around the adverse events and pulling this data about dose. She called them dosing misadventures as well, about how people didn't really know what their doses. And all of us have been on TikTok, and we've said your dose is not your units.
Yeah. It's
And the problem that she was also getting at was that not every compounding pharmacy was making them to the same concentration or doing it the same way. So there was no unilateral policy. So it made it more confusing for a doctor, their actual in-person doctor. They were having to bring the prescriptions into them, or they were just using it incorrectly. I think all of us also know that we've heard stories of people using the branded incorrectly, though, as well, especially when the vials came out.
Yes.
So, I think that there needs to be better data on that.
I mean, we know there's people that take the pens and empty the pens, right? Like they buy brand and empty the pens into vials and dose how they feel like that's the thing is, I think, I hate when we see it on TikTok when someone will say they've OD'd. Like I'm going to say, because I'm not sure about what I can say on the YT here, but they've used that language, right? As opposed to dosing misadventures, which is I feel like what you're talking about, right? It's an interesting way to put it. I'm wondering too, because that is the distinction that we've seen. So when we've done some great episodes on the podcast, investigation only, to be clear, where we were learning about from our gray friends, right, the difference between all of that. And so what they've told us, for those our listeners who are just listening, who haven't seen that episode, so we've talked about what is the gray market. And so my gray friends, or when I say our gray friends, we mean the gray community. They are a community in and of themselves, and they are also part of GLP-1 community, that they talk about how getting research grade peptides, which is domestic gray. And then they also have the difference where it's, from China or an API elsewhere, where they get that through peptide companies. And both of these ways, they come to you and you mix them up at home and you dose them accordingly on your own. There is no doctor. There is no oversight. If anything, they're from a patient perspective, and communities, they lean on each other for support in this area. And there are many people from the gray community that are not everybody should go gray, for exactly the reason that we're talking about: units versus milligrams versus, all these different things. It's not for everyone. And the only reason, for the most part, I have found in my research that people even do gray peptide here is because of the price, right? Or they do gray peptide overseas is because of the price. And it's usually people, I think there are some people, we talked to Dave about in our last episode, where people maybe are doing this to get skinny. Okay, fine, whatever. Let's just, I don't think that's the majority of the people. I do think it's people who struggle metabolically for whatever reason or whatever spectrum, and they're sick and they just need their medicine. and they're trying to get it the best way that they can. And in the gray, when you're buying it like overseas, they have buying groups where they buy it together, they test it together, and then they split it. Right. And they're paying $500 a year for their medicine instead of $500 a month. And this is massive booming business since honestly the shortage stopped and a lot of people pulled back in the way that Zach is talking about. So that's been a big change. I can't help but wonder what this, more accessibility will do to the gray market or domestic gray or, overseas. I can't even speculate on that because my head's still exploding from what we just learned a week ago. I
think the people doing gray will just keep doing gray.
Yeah.
Because once you start doing it, you see how much money you've saved and you're comfortable with it. And then there's no reason to stop unless laws change and things become more difficult to get.
Yes.
But I think that those people are going to stay gray, just like some people who are already using compound medication with their pharmacies are going to stay with a telehealth company that's giving them compound. And the reason why I think is because they have like a full spectrum of support that you don't get just from going to your family practitioner, getting your little pen and going home with it, where you have like support group and community. You have sometimes like mental health support and nutrition and fitness. And like when you have all of that, why would you want to give that up?
Honestly, I'm pretty sure that's why Weight Watchers stayed in the market as long as they did as the leader, because that's exactly what they did. It was the diet you need forever, and you had the whole system baked in. Your community was there. You went and did weigh-ins, and you did things with your community. You had friends. They went to your wedding. Like it was all baked in. So I see where you're going with that. I also think that ultimately we do have friends that do gray that are peptides that have not been approved yet. So we have friends that do peptides that are like what is it called? Cagrilintide, right? Or they do Retta, right? We want to be careful saying that, but they do Retta, right? And Retta has not been approved by the FDA for anything yet. So those people, I think, if they feel success with that, are going to keep doing it. But most people I've talked to in gray have all still said to me, most people, that it is a last resort. Like it is a last resort. But I really do think that if you give people the choice, right? $25 at your pharmacy, I do think for the most part, they're going to go that direction. Unless it's, again,
I agree.
different peptide, different reasons. You know what I mean?
And isn't that the dream? I mean, despite all of everything that's going on right now, the dream is for all of us to be able to get a prescription from our doctor that we're qualified for, and walk in without a PA net process necessary into our CVS or Walgreens or a local pharmacy and pick up a box for $25 to $50. Like that is what we need to continue to fight for.
Yes. Yeah. And I think we have other people in the community that support the community in different ways, right? Whether it is, understanding these things because they don't have access, right? Because of this massive issue and I think that for a lot of us here, what we're trying to do is move that needle, right? We're trying to move access and quality care, which is why we want TROA to pass too, because there's a lot of pieces of care that people are very worthy and deserving, and that is necessary, not just being on these medicines, but because they have the disease. And there's a lot of limitations, right, with Medicare right now. We want that to change. We want that to get better. All right. What other pins do we miss, friends? Else?
I would say let me put one in hasn't been said, but I think it's one that people will be super interested in. And Zach and I have some disagreements on it, but Dr. Mitch Bierman out of San Diego did a paper. It's more than a case study, which is a single case, less than a study, right? Because it's only 30 people out of his clinic. But he looked at people under BMI of 35 or 35 and under, who had reached either their health goals, or they had reached their goal weight, or two of the three of these, or they wanted to come off meds. And as long as they met either their health goal, their weight goal, he would take them off. And of the 26, he dosed them at every other week. And of the 30, 26 of them did not gain weight after a year. 4 of them did. It was an interesting study that they're going to, the goal of this is to start to bring it in, to have it further researched out. But one of the things that I really took away from the conference was how many things like that if you live in the TikTok or the YouTube community and you absorb lots and lots of cases like we do, where we listen to tons of people's stories, how many things we sort of accept here as sort of like, oh yeah, we kind of know this. So many of the studies that we saw were that they were just trying to put a data point and study on our lived experience. So Dr. Desmina, I can't remember her last name, it begins with a B, out of UC Davis, was funded by Known Well Clinics, and did a study looking at how our food choices change after 6 months. Now, we all know that we all move towards whole foods, but to actually be building towards that, or how when we started GLP-1, there was another study about how many of us are doing more exercise as a result of it, right? So they're taking all the things that we see every day by looking at TikTok videos, and actually meaning that they're not just our old wives' tale. Well, my friends on TikTok say it's this.
Yeah.
Doctors are actually starting to quantify what we're seeing to actually say this is accurate, and this is sort of a, 25 people say if you shoot it in your butt above the back, then you get no side effects, right? Like they're trying to sort those myths from TikTok to the reality of it.
That's really interesting, though, right?
Interesting.
Yeah. There were so many interesting studies. And let me just say up front, like as I cite those two in particular, Desmina B and Dr. Bierman, both of those were people who Zach and I engaged with, and then sort of said like, hey, we're really interested. And then went out of their way during the conference. Like Dr. Bierman spent like 2.5 hours with us at dinner one night.
Yeah, he went to dinner with us.
Yeah.
Just chatting about it. I want to say her last name. It's Desmina, like we grabbed us in the hallway a couple times just to like get our information. She's following us on TikTok. I'm following her on LinkedIn. Like that was the experience. But I do want to say before we wrap up, that when we keep saying we want more people there, we should also acknowledge how we all got there, right? Yeah. Kat, Kim, and Amanda have podcasts and were able to get in on a media credential. Zach works in this space and he was able to do it. I was lucky enough to have a company, Sika in my case, who wanted to sponsor me to be there. The conference costs like $700-800 just to register for it. That doesn't include next year in San Diego, the hotels, the flights, all those kinds of things. So it's not for everybody, not because they don't all belong there, but because the barriers are so high for affordability.
I would say though, if you think about it, Mike, though, like so as a product marketer who often is planning launches and stuff like around events, most of the time the value that we get as product marketers and as a company are creating events around the major event as opposed to like the big event. And if like we sort of did that like with Downsize, even though I couldn't come because stupid work. Sorry, Dad. Sorry, everybody. Sorry, work, but you didn't let me off. But regardless, like, it is a thing. I forget, like people are probably watching. But I couldn't come, but they did that though. They had like a meetup, and I'm wondering if there's an option for when that happens to have something outside of it, right, that is less expensive or that is sponsored by maybe like those brands, right?
Like BioCare had events throughout the week, but
we had so much more than one meetup. It was like an everyday, couple days there were like multiple meetups event, and honestly,
the BioCare
that made it.
Right.
I am in love with these girls. Seriously, they were like my lifeline on the first day. They were so supportive and amazing coming there and setting that up. They didn't even go to Obesity Week. They just came to like make community happen, right? It's like people came out to see them, and we went out to a bar and we went out and got tacos. They did like a walk and talk at the park. They were amazing. And it made the whole experience that much more worth it because it wasn't just going and talking to doctors. Who I also talked to Mitch, and I saw that presentation. I thought that was amazing. I'm hopefully going to have him on the podcast because he's fantastic. But to be able to spend that time with community, it, like I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's just that much more worth it.
There's other community events that are out there. And so what I hope from all of us is that we think about how we, at most other conferences like this, there are patient voices on the panels that are getting invitations. And looking at what Kim and Kat and Amanda have done of building platforms for themselves and being able to get media passes is a great way to get yourself in the conversations. And for those of us that have been in there, to also lift other people up when people say, hey, I need a patient voice. Maybe it's not us if we can automatically get there because of our press pass, that we say, you need to talk to so-and-so. That would be the perfect person for your panel. So that we lift each other up as a community.
Yes.
Figure out as many people as we can get there by not just focusing on ourselves, but thinking about the larger audience.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that and one of the things that I loved that Amanda did from the beginning is thinking about sort of like the collective and how we can do all this together, because like that is what it's going to take. And I think, I do that quite a lot, what you're talking about. Like, I think it's so important. And it's not just because I can't be everywhere, but it's also because it shouldn't just be me and my story. It shouldn't just be her story. It should be our story. Right.
It's all of our stories.
Movement.
Before we're getting all gushy, I know, but like every person that I met, I was like, oh my God, I feel like we've just been friends forever. Like, it just felt so natural. When Kat came up to me, I wasn't even surprised. I was just like, oh, hey, Kat, like, hey, girl.
I hugged her. I hugged her out of nowhere. She's like, hi, hang on.
There was one person who I did like almost cry to meeting, and that was Kim. And I felt the same way, like, oh, hey, girl, but like Kim has done so. I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna freaking cry. Kim has done so much to lift everyone up, and has like seriously picked me up by my suspenders and twirled me in the air above her head so many times. I cannot even express how much she has done to lift me up throughout this entire journey. And I see Mike doing that too. Yeah. And I really felt that when I was there. I love you guys for it.
Love you. I think
Thank you.
I'm happy to. It's honestly, we're getting gushy. It is the gift of my life to be able to do this. It is very, very hard, but it is the gift of my life. It is.
We're not going to get there with 2 people or 3 people or 4 people. We're going to get there with an army, and that's what we're working to build. That's why I do what I do. It's why I publish what I publish. It's why I put my TikToks out there. It's why Kim does it. It's why you do it. It's why 1,000 other people are doing it on TikTok. Together we can get there.
And we just need more. And so if you're listening to this now and you've been thinking about it, just start. And I think it can feel in the beginning too, when you are just starting and maybe you're putting a lot of time and effort into like making content and stories or platforms or podcasts or whatever it may be. Guys, I'm telling you, I built this podcast to being in the 1% with Kat, right? Like, we built this. I was on live hustling my face off every day to get people to come.
My girl was on live all the time. Like, I remember when Kim was sick, and Kim didn't see me, I would chime in live. I'm like, Kim, go to bed.
Well, people ask me like, how do I do it? I'm like, I legitimately,
go to bed.
I was constantly on live.
It's what Zach said at the beginning.
Yeah.
When you tell your story, it starts a snowball and it eventually becomes an avalanche.
Yes.
And I know that's what it was for me. I never came on to like become an advocate. I came on to find support, and it grew into something. And I think that's true for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you're not sharing your story and you are so inclined, you'd be shocked at how it can change the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
And don't advocate.
Go ahead. What'd you say?
I had no social media. I knew that people were having issues. I started that petition because I was like, holy shit, these people need help. And then I got on social media because I was like, hopefully this will help me reach more people. That's what social media does, right? I don't know, because I never used it before, but I got on to advocate.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I found other people with their stories, and I was like, wow, this makes me want to come out of my own closet. It was amazing.
Before we wrap up, Linda said something, and I think it's super, super important because it's probably the biggest takeaway I had from the conference, which is on social media right now, we talk about this as a one-dimensional sort of thing. There's Wegovy, there's Zepbound, and maybe there's Retta coming down the pike.
Right.
That is not what the conference was saying. What the conference is saying, we are at the cusp of something amazing called personalized medicine, where there's going to be like 7, 8, 9 treatments in a very short window. We're seeing an obesity medicine doctor is going to be really important because you need to find out which one's right for you based on your phenotype of your obesity.
Right.
There's so many meds. When we talk about Amgen and Maritide, and we talk about CagriSema, and we talk about Orflugabra, they're all.
I know what you're talking.
Dave says it perfect.
I spent a 2-hour dinner on amylins. Like, geez.
Yeah, I mean, we've been thinking about the glucagon, right? We've been thinking about Retta, and it's like GLP-1, GIP, and glucagon. The world is thinking about amylin. We're already past Retta.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much excitement coming, and that was the theme of the conference. They literally had an amylin adventure thing. Like,
oh, I didn't see that. That's cool.
Yeah, Zach saw that.
I went to a 2-hour dinner on amylin, and it was literally like 6 different amylins that they were studying, and the results on all of it.
Yeah.
Which Cagra is one of them, CagriSema, which I think in Novo's Q4 earnings saying they filed for approval.
Here we go.
So like that, the first amylin one could be here before we know it.
Yeah.
Before I get mushy, I just wanted to throw a few other gems out there quickly.
Please do. Yes. Throw out the gems.
I was in a session, and one of the things that was said was efficacy is not tolerability. Which is actually really nice to hear from the research community, because like obviously like we want all of these really powerful medications to treat obesity, but if patients are dropping off of them because they're not tolerable for us, that might be the one that gets put back on the shelf until they can figure out how to manage the side effects with it, or are the side effects manageable with it. So that was very interesting to hear from the data perspective. From a session standpoint, I went to a whole 5 sessions in a row on muscle tissue, and there was one that completely blew my mind about muscle loss in particular, and how, you know, this is how been a hot topic. Oh my, you're going to lose all your muscle mass, blah, blah, blah. Well, that doctor's presentation was on, well, yeah, if you're in a voluntary weight loss period, you're going to have voluntary muscle loss as well.
Yeah.
And there's like a reasonable percentage for men and women based on that is expected to lose. And oh, by the way, because we're obese, we have more muscle. And as we get smaller, we need less muscle, was part of it. But the other real mind-blowing part of it was learning about intramuscular adipose tissue, that we lose adipose tissue in our muscles, and we might be losing muscle, but our muscle quality might be increasing.
Wow.
And that, I went to another session where they didn't want to set protein requirements yet for GLP-1 RA patients, because the data is still evolving on trying to figure out the muscle loss. And someone got up to the mic at the end of that session and said, so as a whole medical community, did we blow out of proportion the threat of muscle loss?
Yeah.
All of the presenters said, yes, it's a risk. You got to make sure that it's within a reason. But it seemed like right now the data seemingly pointing that it was blown up proportion. And for me to hear a medical group, a body kind of admit to something like facts changing.
Yes. I reserve the right to change my mind. I love that.
It was very big. And then I'm going to say the last day, bariatrics, which is my realm. I mean, it's both bariatrics and GLP, but I've been more into the bariatric space. I listened to a very interesting session from Stanford Medical, who is completely rebranded and redid how they're doing their weight management care. They've merged endocrinology and weight management into the same unit, and they call it lifestyle and weight management. I know you don't like the phrase lifestyle, but honestly, moving those disciplinaries all together in the same practice was huge. And he said surgery numbers are down, but their number of patients has skyrocketed by the thousands that they're seeing because of this change. So to me, that's more patients that are getting treatment. And he said that patients don't fail treatments fail patients.
Yeah, I've been hearing that quite a bit.
And
multiple times.
That was really big. He said if like say the surgery happened to not work for that patient, he said it was up to them to go back to the toolkit to try and find something else for that patient.
Yeah, for sure.
And as someone who's had a very bumpy surgical road, that was very big to hear, because the narrative previously used to be, this is your tool. If it fails, it's because you failed the tool.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad to see that is changing. I will say personally, the conference gave me a lot to think about, especially with my body composition results from Sika. I know we're out of time, so we'll talk about that at another point. But I'll give you a plus side Zach exclusive.
Okay. I love that.
When I got home yesterday, I actually submitted a consult request for skin removal.
Oh, did
Okay.
you?
And that was because of all the stuff from Obesity Week, because like I'm eons past where I ever felt that I would be at this point. Now, I don't know if I'll go through with it or whatever, but like I am going to go through with the consult.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the first step.
And find out just exactly what, or if I am ready. But after getting a DEXA scan that had me at 12.3% body fat and a Sika scan that had me at 8.6, I can tell you I don't need to get any leaner.
Sika, we are open for sponsorships.
Can I just say, go to the link in Zach's bio and buy t-shirts from him, because his t-shirts fund the skin surgery. So buy his t-shirts.
Oh, let's do that. Will you send me all the links in the land so I can put them in this? Because I'm going to put it on the audio. So we want that, you know. So send me all everybody that's listening, all the links in the land. We're going to help Zach be able to.
We're going to help Zach get his.
Yes. We're going to have.
You
can go be able to follow Mike's Substack too, because he goes into this a lot. Mike's very much into policy and like getting that changed, and he knows all the political stuff and teaches me stuff. Him and Jamie and Kat too, like, you know, because I don't know nothing. So it's great to have that. So it's just, I think it's really good, depending on what you're interested in, to like have these different perspectives to follow, because it is a huge problem, you know, and we have to fix it together, you know. Yeah. I think this was great, guys. Good session. I'm concerned that it's in a very expensive state next year, because I only could come this year because I live here. So
we're all going to be selling t-shirts.
Yeah, we'll all be selling t-shirts. Help us go to Obesity Week.
I just looked up the cost of OMA before this, and
What's OMA?
It's the Obesity Medicine Association.
Oh, wow.
And theirs is in San Diego.
Oh, Lord.
They both are then, right?
No, the other.
Oh, that's right.
OBC is in Washington, D.C. next year.
Oh, we should go, because it will be advocacy, I guarantee you, on the Hill.
Yeah.
That'd be good. Yeah, because they'll do Hill Day, won't they? Yeah.
And shout out to the Obesity Action Coalition. They're Your Weight Matters one in July in Orlando.
Yes, we will definitely be there.
Can I just say, the people from OAC, Dr. Kushner, Dr. Pashby, Dr. Angela Fitch, like everybody from the OAC that I saw were kings of Obesity Week. These were people everyone looks up to, and they're at the tables and you can talk to them. And once you go to OAC, it made this conference so much more richer, because we had relationships with so many of them, because that is where they focus on the patients. So OAC's conference in July, sign up for that one.
It is the warmest, chill, amazing. I can't even tell you. You will feel. I was reinvigorated after that conference. Like I just knew what we needed to do. I will say, like, before we go, two things. One, to my friend with PCOS, I want you to know we're going to have someone on the podcast that's a researcher. There's actually an obesity specialist for children who's going to come on and talk about the fact that they're trying to get an indication approved for PCOS. So we will have that coming soon. So stay tuned for that one, all my PCOS warrior friends. The other thing I want to say is that I would love to ask the community for a little bit of help here. A lot of us can say that we sort of had this, like, sort of these platforms and this opportunity sort of put in a place where we can do good things, right? And I would tell you that I am highly concerned that we are going to have an influx of people that are going to get on this medicine because of, let's just say, Trump RX, or because of Medicare, Medicaid, all of this, that are going to get on it very fast. We do not have the infrastructure for patient support to support this many people that are going to get on these medicines. And right now, in my opinion, this is my opinion, I am concerned that especially our friends that are 65 and older aren't necessarily going to TikTok, right? And I'm wondering if there is a way for our community to work together to do something so that we have resources that are, you know, backed by science and doctors and all these things for patient support, because I do not think that those programs exist for how fast this is going to move. And I would love for us all to just sort of brainstorm that and think, like, what are ways that the plus sides or Mike or any of us, what can we do about that? You know,
Collective.
we got to think about that together, because I do think that's going to be an explosion.
Facebook.
And I'm concerned.
Collective has a monthly support group that I will say the majority of people who come are much older because they're not on social media and they're looking for support, which is why I started it in the first place.
Yes.
But there are educational resources on there too, because people are looking for resources a lot. Like a lot of people come to the support group just to ask about side effects.
Yeah, exactly.
Because like
right?
their doctors don't even know. This
No.
one person said they accidentally, like they went up in dose, not on accident,
Mhm.
and they had such bad side effects. They said they felt like they were dying, and they went to their doctor and they were like, too late now. It's already in your system. You're just going to have to write it out.
No, well, yeah.
I
It's
think
crazy,
we're going
right?
to see a lot of
Yeah.
that. So
I do think we're going to
please
see a
tell
lot.
them about the
Yeah.
collective, the nonprofit that was built to help
Yes.
support these people.
Yeah, that's great. And I think and I don't know if it's how we advertise that, or if we partner with clinicians, or if we partner with, these hospital systems, or what we do where they can know there's this place to go, because they can tell these patients all day long, come to me and ask me these questions. They are not going to go to them. They are not. They're going to go to us, because the patient trust between patient and clinician is broken. But we do, I think, have a responsibility, at least what I'm very passionate about right now, is trying to find a way to mend that, right? And so I want to make sure that when we're talking with people and we're talking about side effects, that we are giving them the language and the education and the confidence to have this discussion with their clinician to discuss what it is that they need to do, because this is a disease. This is a chronic disease. You're going to have it your whole life, unfortunately, right? Let's hope something comes up and our people don't have to suffer anymore, but it is. And so because of that, you need to be able to have these conversations and advocate for what you need. So I don't know what that is, but I think ideas around that as a community, I think that we should try to come up with that together, of how we solve for that gap, because it's going to be huge, and that's my perspective anyway. Is that like a little doom and gloom, but to end on?
No, I don't think it's a doom and gloom at all. I think it's
let's come together. We can fix this.
Come
together right now. Love it. Okay, good talk, friends. Yay! All right, takeaways. Go follow everybody here on all the platforms. I'm going to put all the links in here once I get them all. Okay, and
then buy Zach Niemiec's stuff so he can get his surgery.
Zach Niemiec.
Maybe I need a Men of GLP-1 calendar. Maybe I'll just do 12 months of
WTF.
Zach, that's the best freaking idea I've ever heard.
I will riot.
Great.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I love it so much.
Yes.
I mean,
I'll buy
we
it.
live in the United States, so all we need to do is start a GoFundMe to get healthcare, because that's what we do.
That's how we get healthcare. And never mind. I'm
sad.
My God.
From my lips to Jesus.
Anyway, love you guys. Good talk.
I love you guys.
Bye.
We'll see you next week, guys. Hasta la pasta.
Okay.
Love you.
I'll play it.
Are you